Hey guys, so for all you who are looking for more success, to manifest more prosperity in your life, here's the question I want you to ponder. Have you inadvertently hardwired yourself for heartbreak? Hey guys, Randy Gage here. Welcome to another episode of Prosperity TV. As you see, I'm at my place in Miami. And I want to explore this possibility and I want to really talk about neuroscience, right? Now, full disclaimer, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I play one on YouTube. But it's an area that I study a lot. Because I think everything about prosperity and success, so much of it, 95% of it is mental. And you guys know we've talked in the past on other shows about the programming, the memes, the mind viruses that we get. But I want to look at the possibility that you actually have hardwired yourself to be broke, or to be unhappy, or to be unhealthy. And where we would start with this study is we would look at patterns in your life. In my case, if some of you have heard me tell the story of after 11 negative dysfunctional relationships in a row, I began to think, well, maybe it wasn't my partners, maybe I had a role in some of that. So ask yourself, are you one of those people who are just always, hey, I'm always a day late and $1 short? You're always, I don't know, you guys around the world will understand this. We have this colloquial expression in English where we say you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Meaning when something good happens to you, you're just shocked by it, surprised by it, and you're waiting for the universe to discover that you somehow got a lucky break and now it needs to get canceled out. I think last show or the one before we talked about the neural pathways in your brain, the ruts that are created when you have, for instance, I believe the numbers you get, an average person has about 60,000 thoughts a day, but the vast preponderance of these are the same thoughts every day. I need to get up, I need to get dressed, it's time to go to work, I need my regular breakfast, my habit, brushing my teeth, brushing my hair, whatever that might be. These thoughts actually create ruts in your brain. So let's go a little deeper into neuroscience, because there's a thing called Hebb's Law. And if you guys want to do some homework and study a little deeper, you might see it referenced as Hebbian's theory. And this is the neuroscience principle which states that nerves that fire together wire together, right? So, and I think this is something really worth exploring, because think about triggers. We've all heard about triggers for addiction, triggers for pedophiles, triggers for suicide. What is that? I think that's where Hebb's Law comes into play. Nerves that fire together, create a pattern, and they start to become intertwined. And again, it's that, so something happens and you have that thought, here we go again. You're a guy and you've been rejected by 6 girls at the club or the dance or the whatever at the high school, or invited to prom, and now you're talking to the 7th one and you're gonna, here we go. You expect that bad thing to happen. And what Hebb's Law says is that neurons which repeatedly fire together create long-term patterns where it's easier for them to fire together. So what does that mean? It means it creates this reality. You create your reality through this pattern that your neurons have developed. You think the same thoughts, you feel the same emotions, you repeat the same habits, and then you create this self-fulfilling prophecy. So how do we break that? If you find, hey, you know what, I actually might be hardwired for heartbreak. I've created this pattern in my life of negative outcomes that continually repeat itself. I'm in a destructive cycle. I know, because I've been in a number of them, right? So how do you break that up? Well, again, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I always do this blog, my blogs, my podcasts, my YouTube channel is like, hey, here's what I'm doing, here's what's working for me, here's what's not working for me. So here's what works for me, here's what's worked for me in the past, here's what I'm still working on. Changing your state, breaking patterns. I have positive triggers that I state, right? So when I'm in the batter's box, I have a thing where I just tap myself, because what I've done is I've visually affirmed squaring up the ball, hitting a hard smoking line drive. So when I do a batting practice and I'm repeating my swing and I drill it exactly as I want to, I anchor that with this physical reminder. So what do? A lot of the umpires in my league, they've noticed it over the years. Like, Randy, I notice every time you get in the batter's box, you always touch your neck. What is that? That's my anchor to remind myself to focus my attention on how I want to swing the ball. I used to carry a rubber band around my wrist, and then when I had a negative thought, I would snap the rubber band. In other words, I would get that thought that, oh yeah, here it goes again. Do that. Otherwise, then I just stopped carrying the rubber band, and I just tap myself on the head. And people say, you've been studying prosperity for 30 years. You've written books on this. You do seminars on this. You have podcasts, YouTube, everything. Your whole life is devoted to prosperity. I bet you never have a negative thought. I wish. Just like you, I'm getting programmed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with all kind of negative bullshit, all kind of negative limiting beliefs that I don't want in my mind, and I have to counter program against. And when I get influenced by that, and then I have this negative belief, I just remind myself, hey, break that pattern. Self-analysis, thinking about what you think about, thinking about the results you create in your life. This self-awareness, this introspection, this critical thinking, this is so important, I think. And sometimes it's professional analysis. I didn't really have big breakthroughs until I went to a therapist for 3 years. 3 years of therapy, because I wasn't able to just do this self-analysis. Because insanity always reinvents itself. And whether it's narcissism, whether it's any kind of mental issues we would talk about, it's always going to reinvent itself. You can't just think your way out of it sometimes. When it's deep, you need professional help. Something we talk about a lot, be mindful of your programming. What are you allowing yourself to be influenced by? Be mindful of your environment would be the next thing on the list. What's the area? Where do you live? Where do you work? Who are you hanging with? Who are the people in your life? If you're putting yourself, if you're an alcoholic and you rent a room upstairs from a bar, is that environment really conducive to where you want to be? So what we're really talking about is creating new neural pathways. That's why I snap the rubber band or do this. I want to catch that thought, because what happens is, again, you have the thought, you experience an emotion, then you do the habit, and you're just creating this self-fulfilling prophecy. So we've got to interrupt the process and create a new neural pathway. So when the situation comes about and you're thinking, oh, here I go again, just change that thought. Hey, no, that was the past. I'm choosing to break this pattern. And one other thing I'll give you on the list, a recommended resource. It's a book that I haven't finished it yet, but I'm in the process. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And for you guys listening on the podcast, it's Dr. Joe Dispenza. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. So give yourself It's all about changing your state, breaking the pattern, creating new thought patterns. Because if we change the programming, we become mindful of the thoughts, we create a new thought pattern. And new thought patterns produce new and different results. Okay, guys, have an amazing week. Peace. Hey, thanks for watching here on YouTube. Please subscribe, and I'd love to hear your comments down below. And if you're listening on the podcast, please share it or rate it on iTunes. See you next week.